like. Okay, this next form is a cylinder form. It differs from the bowl form in that it doesn't have that continuous curve across the bottom. It still has an arc like a plate, but it doesn't have that curve all the way up to the sides. Cylinders, really the make or break in it is in the very beginning. How wide you center it out is going to tell you, before you even open it up, is going to tell you what the cylinder form is going to be. So if you want something that's really narrow, tall and narrow, you don't necessarily have to center it skinny, but you just open it up a little bit narrow. But if you want something that's really wide, you have to center it wide first. You can't just open it wide. If you open it wide, you end up trapping air around the edges and it gets out of center. So always center first to the diameter you're going to need and then open it up to it. You can always go back and make things narrower. It's much harder to go the other direction. Okay, we just have about a pound here, and we're going to use this to make a cylinder form, and this one I'm going to turn into a jar form that you could use for a teapot, you could use for just about anything with a lid. And what I'm going to do is I'll split the rim on it. So first things first, we'll center this with the wheel speed going, hands wet. We're going to do the centering technique where we have side compression, top compression, and what we call wedging on the wheel or coning the clay, where that hands are not straight across, they're offset a little bit. I'm going to go this direction. So I'm pushing down first and in a little bit. And now I'm going to cup it and bring it up using the lower part of my palm and then my left thumb kind of pressing down as I go up. Elbows are against me, they're not up and out. My whole body is part of this process. So I bring it up and clean this off a little bit so I have a nice edge to return to. And as I push down, I'm containing it in here as I push across here. So this time it's more down and less on the palms, but the palms play an important part. They're consolidating that leading edge out here, which is where we're going to start all of our pulls. So we want it to be perpendicular, slightly domed, and at this stage we can keep centering and decide how wide we want it. Like I said, I don't recommend, if you want a narrow bottom, to necessarily make the whole centerpiece narrow. You can always just open it up small. But if we want it wider, we should make this wider in the beginning. So I'll center that a little bit wider. And now, hands on the outside, right thumb over left thumb. I'm going to open it up, gently squeezing on the outside. And as I go down, I don't go straight down. I take it kind of obliquely, so I have some side pressure as I put my top pressure in. Again, that's all part of keeping it centered. Bottom thickness, I want to maintain anywhere from about 1/3 of an inch to 1/2 an inch, depending on what I want to trim. I'm going to take this and pull it out, and as I pull out, it's not going to be curved, it's going to be slightly, just slightly up, then I'll go ahead and pinch up the wall. Right hand is pushing in, they slide past each other like this. Right hand, side pressure and top pressure, so that I don't distort the clay and take it out of center. As I bring it out, and then up. So I have to stop before I get, otherwise I can roll this off the edge and then it gets out of center. And what happens is one side rolls first as it's going around, and that's where you get out of center. Okay, I'm going to move the walls in a little bit, so in profile it looks like this. The bottom's nice and clean, and the walls angle up with a little bit of a compression bead at the top. Undercut, slip on the walls, got a nice taper to it as it goes up. I'm going to take my hands so you can see them, and I'm going to put my left thumb over into the right thumb pocket, bring my fingertips together. My fingertips are kind of squeezing against my middle finger, and that's where the contact is going to be with the clay. Outside hand's going to be a little lower on the right side than the inside, and that's going to create lift. This is my top pressure, so I've got my side pressure and top pressure, and I can pretty much move the clay wherever I want to go. About medium speed here. I dig in, I meet that pressure, and you can see that little wake of clay. That's what I'm stretching and moving this form with. On the inside of my form, the wall is straight up and down. The outside has a taper to it. which is also going to be transferring the weight kind of in a tree buttress sort of form. Helps keep it so I can maintain being in center and also put pressure on this without it collapsing. I always think about the inside form on all my pieces, and so I'm looking at the inside volume right here where I want to go. If I want to go wider with the whole form, I'm going to move the rim out. If I want to go narrower, I'm going to collar the rim in. For this form, I'm going to leave it at this diameter. I'm going to do one more pull, and then I'll split the rim open for holding a lid. So I'm putting slip on it. I've got my undercut, and I'm going to find a way to reach in there. You'll notice my elbow is resting against my body, my thigh. So my whole hand mechanism hinges off of that elbow contact. And they're working as one unit as we pull this up. To the top, we slowly let off. We're leaving a nice thick bead on here for purposes of splitting and holding a lid. I'm going to bevel the bottom edge. And I'm going to use that as a starting point to shape and form my walls. If I really want this wide, I would take another pole and blow it out. I'm going to kind of maintain the cylinder shape. So I'm going to use my rib, and I'm going to hold it passively against the clay so it slides past, working on the right-hand side. And I'll start down at the bottom, and I'll slowly bring this up, and I'm compressing the clay against the rib as I go up. Take up the throw lines, and I'll shore up the pot. Get it up there, and I'll go. To split the rim, I don't know if you want a close-up of this or if that gives us a nice close-up. To split the rim, I'm going to hold it right on my knuckle here on my right hand, and I'm going to take my left hand knuckle from my left hand thumb and push down and just split that. Other ways you can do this, you could come in with this, or you could come in any sort of form that's sharp enough to cut it. I wouldn't use a needle tool, obviously that would cut right through, but you could use the back of a needle tool if you needed to. Yeah, I like this to be rounded on the inside, so I'm going to use my finger. You could also use the corners on a tool like this to give that a nice rounded edge. Kind of soften the edge on the inside, soften the edge of the rim. Slip in there. And so this is my cylinder form. I'm going to make a lid that fits across that. Okay, that's it for this one.
Oh, okay.
And I'm going to cut to the lid.
Cut to the lid. Alrighty.